what's happening, this unprecedented power that the Treasury is asking for to make itself a private hedge fund, and also to give themselves amnesty from any crimes that have been committed by the financial order. Paul Watson has the headline on prisonplanet.com, Bush and McCain blackmail America with economic terrorism. The two parties have circled the wagons. They're saying you must give us unlimited power and $5 trillion, according to Bloomberg's, the real number, Bloomberg Financial, or depression will strike, which itself is enough to send the markets into oblivion. So please, Congressman Ron Paul, who was just questioning Bernanke in the Banking Committee yesterday, the only one asking real questions, tell us what we're truly facing right now. Who are the culprits? Do people need to be brought to justice for this so that the criminal activity stops? And what is your idea of a plan to try to avert what's happening versus their stick-up bailout? Congressman.
Well, obviously it is very, very serious, and we've been warning about it, as you have on your radio program, and it's here. But when they say that if we don't do exactly as they say and turn over more of our money and more of our liberties and exempt themselves from any court in the whole nation, they're trying to intimidate us and stampede us into doing the wrong thing. But they're also right when they say that if they don't do that, we're going to have serious problems. Yes, we are, but we're going to have much more serious problems if we do than they won't.
Okay, classic there, ladies and gentlemen. We lost the congressman over the congressional phone line system. And so we are calling Congressman Ron Paul back right now on this key day with the decision of this nation being decided. This is one of the most important crossroads in this country and in the world's economic history. Will the criminals that have orchestrated this crisis, that has nothing to do with the subprime loans, that's less than 100 billion of the trillions of junk and derivatives that are out there, will they be able to orchestrate an expansion of their power out of the crisis they've committed to bring us even under greater control of the economic fascists? Or will the American people rally and say no and come up with a real plan to avert economic depression? This is make it or break it right now. And we are getting Congressman Ron Paul back up on the line. For folks watching at prisonplanet.tv right now, we are streaming live. Bush and McCain blackmail America with economic terrorism. Excellent article by Paul Joseph Watson that everyone should read and also get out to your email list, friends and family and others, because it's key right now that the American people understand why and how this is happening and who the culprits are. That is absolutely essential right now that happen. And the good news is, in the Rasmussen polls and other polls, under 30% or 28% in some polls, lower in some others, higher in others, but never above 30%. Only 30% of the people are supporting this. And that is very, very exciting. Were we able to get the congressman back? Fantastic. It is pandemonium up there at the Capitol with the phone system, and we will get the congressman back on with us. Lawmakers, financial bailout agreement reached. This is Associated Press. This just came out 10 minutes ago. Warned of possible financial panic. Key Republicans and Democrats reported agreement in principle Thursday on a $700 billion bailout of the financial industry and said they would present it to Bush administration in hopes of a vote within days. Emerging from the 2-hour negotiation session, Senator Chris Dodd, the Senate, the Banking Committee chairman, said, "We are very confident that we can act expeditiously. I now expect that we will indeed have a plan that can pass the House, pass the Senate, and be signed by President," said Senator Bob Bennett, Republican, Utah. The bipartisan consensus on the general discussion of the legislation was reported just hours before President Bush was to host presidential contenders Barack Obama, John McCain, and congressional leaders at the White House for discussions on how to clear obstacles to the unpopular rescue plan. See, it's unpopular, so you have the establishment showing it's the establishment against the people, giving dictatorial powers to these private interests. Congressman, had a little snafu there, but at least we've got 10 minutes left with you. Please go back to where you were. You were dealing with the very people that have engineered this are now saying give us unlimited blank check power.
Yeah, that's what they want, and they don't want any review of any court. So they want dictatorship. They want to pass all the penalty and suffering on the average person on Main Street. They talk about illiquid assets, but what they should say is assets that have no value, that everybody would know what they're talking about. And they just want to dump the real assets on us, and the bankers and others who are in special locations will pick up pieces of the good assets that were left over. And we will have a depression or recession. It's locked in place due to the previous Federal Reserve action. The only question is whether this will last 1 year or 10 years and a full decade, and we lose a lot of liberties in the meantime. And I was saying earlier that it looks like, from what I sense in this Congress, they're opting out for a decade plus of depression, rather than saying, well, let's correct our ways, let's balance the budget, let's cut taxes, let's bring our troops home and do all sensible things. And what they're going to do is more of the same of printing money and spending, so that will prolong the agony and prevent the correction that is mandatory.
If we're talking about 13 to 15% real inflation compounded, that is going to be devastating to people on fixed incomes. But the general economy itself is already grinding to a halt. Right here in Texas, even in Austin, supposedly the most successful city in the country right now, things are bad, Congressman.
Yeah, and we've had an addition over in our area. Along the coast, we've had the addition of the hurricane problem. But if you're starting to feel it there, you can imagine what it must be like living in Nevada and California and Michigan and all these other places that have been suffering for a lot longer than a month or two. It's been a year or two, and there's still a long way to go. And my point is, as long as you prevent and slow up the liquidation and the correction, the longer the pain and the suffering lasts. And
what about criminal charges? I mean, there's no doubt that the brokerage firms and hedge funds that put out all this fake paper knew they were engaging in criminal activities. I mean, don't we need to have some investigations and prosecutions so that Wall Street will stop engaging in these activities?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, but probably if you wanted to prosecute the most guilty party, you'd have to prosecute the Federal Reserve Board and the politicians who promote that, because that's where the biggest fraud is. Yes, that is true. This encourages fraud and deceit and all this speculation. But I like to see that as local as possible. Just remember, not too many years ago when Enron went bankrupt, it motivated everybody to say, hey, there's not enough regulation, so they passed Sarbanes-Oxley, which was totally unnecessary and has hurt our economy. And Enron people were prosecuted under Texas anti-fraud laws. So the whole idea of getting the FBI involved, that's sort of the FBI BATF approach, and we don't like national police. So, yes, they should be convicted and put in prison when they defrauded the public.
So you want to see state grand juries in the proper role under the 10th Amendment that have very serious teeth, and the crime is public, so they need to convene grand juries right now.
Yeah, and we have proper authority for that, and it's and an experience with it. And I think the Enron case is a good example.
Okay, solutions. I mean, you have won World Economic Awards. I know you don't like to toot your horn, but you won some of the most prestigious awards out there by different schools of economics. Of course, the Austrian school, the von Mises Institute. What is your plan? What would you do right now if you were the president and you were having this meeting coming up in a few hours? What would Ron Paul do?
Of course, you have to realize a constitutional president is cautious about not becoming a dictator himself. I know what the policy should be, of course, and you have to find out what the Congress is going to do. But there would be a lot you could do. You could probably, I think the most important thing is to send the message that we're going to quit living beyond our means. And a president can set the standard for that, and he has the most control under the Constitution on foreign policy. He could say, look, no more wars. We're done with these wars. We're not going to take on the Russians. We're not going to go take on people in Venezuela. We're going to start talking to the Cubans and bring our troops home and save hundreds of billions of dollars. That would send a powerful message that the dollar would respond to, and actually oil prices would come down. But then you have to get a consensus. You have to get people to say, look, are you ready for a new idea about government, something that the founders knew about? Government should be limited to protecting liberties. We have to talk about unraveling the welfare state, and we have to give up our ideas of world empire. And that is the most important thing a president could do. In the meantime, the policy ought to be shrink the size of government, decrease the regulation, work toward the sound money, remove the authority of the Fed to create money out of thin air, and get tax reduction. We need radical tax reduction. They want more money in the economy. Well, if we didn't have an income tax and did away with the spending, we'd all be a lot richer. And all of a sudden, I think we would thrive in a short period of time. I would permit the liquidation of debt to continue.